Chappell Roan froze mid-interview, walked into the Tonight Show audience, and broke every rule about staying in character. The girl asking for help was from the same small town that almost broke Chappell's spirit. The Tonight Show studio was electric that Wednesday evening, bathed in the familiar warm glow that made millions of viewers feel like they were part of something special. Jimmy Fallon sat behind his iconic curved wooden desk, his energy infectious as always, while the Roots provided their signature musical backdrop. The New York City skyline glittered through the massive windows behind them, creating that perfect late-night television atmosphere that had become Jimmy's trademark. Across from him, in the guest chair that had hosted everyone from A-list celebrities to viral internet sensations, sat Chappell Roan. She looked absolutely stunning in a shimmering rainbow sequin dress that caught the studio lights like a disco ball, her signature drag queen-inspired makeup flawless and bold. Her pink-tinted hair was styled in perfect vintage waves, and she wore the kind of confidence that could only come from someone who had fought hard to become exactly who they were meant to be. The interview had been going beautifully. Jimmy's genuine enthusiasm for Chappell's meteoric rise was evident in every question, every laugh, every moment of connection. They'd covered her Grammy win for Best New Artist, her viral Coachella performance in that iconic pink butterfly costume, and the incredible success of "Good Luck, Babe." "I have to ask about that Coachella performance," Jimmy said, leaning forward with excitement. "The videos went everywhere. You looked like you were having the time of your life up there." Chappell laughed, a genuine sound that filled the studio. "Oh my God, Jimmy, I was terrified. It was my first major festival, and I'm out there in this giant butterfly costume that I could barely see through, trying not to trip while performing for thousands of people. But they knew by the end," Jimmy grinned. "The energy in those videos was insane, and Pink Pony Club has become this anthem for so many people. Can you tell us about writing it?" Chappell's expression shifted slightly, becoming more thoughtful, more vulnerable. "It's about finding your place, you know? About discovering the community that sees you for who you really are, instead of who they think you should be. I wrote it after my first time going to a gay club in West Hollywood. Growing up in Missouri, I'd never seen anything like that before." "Missouri," Jimmy nodded. "Small town life. That must have been quite a contrast." "Willard, Missouri, population about 6,000, Chappell said, with a mix of fondness and pain. "Very conservative, very Christian. I went to church 3 times a week, attended Christian summer camps. Everyone meant well, but when you're different, when you're figuring out that you're queer in a place where that's not really understood or accepted." She paused, her hands gesturing as she searched for the right words. "It wasn't that anyone was cruel exactly. It was just that there was no space for who I was becoming. No examples of people like me living authentically and happily. I felt like I had to choose between being myself and having a home." The audience was captivated, hanging on every word. This was what The Tonight Show did best, creating space for real conversations, real vulnerability, real human connection. "But you found that space?" Jimmy said gently. "You found your people." "I did," Chappell nodded, her voice growing stronger. "Moving to LA, finding the drag community, discovering that there were others like me who were loud and proud and unapologetically themselves. It saved my life, honestly. Those drag queens taught me that being different isn't something to hide from. It's something to celebrate." That's when the voice from the audience cut through the conversation, like a prayer finding its way to heaven. "Excuse me," the voice was young, shaky, but determined. Jimmy's smile flickered slightly as he tried to locate the source. Chappell turned toward the audience, her performer's instincts immediately sensing that something significant was happening. "I'm sorry," the voice continued, stronger now, but still trembling. "I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a question for Chappell. It's important." The camera swung toward the audience, and there she was. A teenager who couldn't have been more than 17, wearing a simple floral dress that looked like it had been carefully chosen for this special occasion. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she had the kind of fresh-faced innocence that comes from small-town living. But her eyes held something deeper, a desperation, a need that transcended normal audience enthusiasm. "Hi there," Jimmy said gently, his professional instincts kicking in while his human instincts told him to let this moment unfold. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Sarah," the girl said, her voice carrying a slight Midwest accent that Chappell recognized immediately. "Sarah Mitchell, I'm from Willard, Missouri." The studio fell completely silent. Chappell's eyes widened, her hand instinctively going to her chest. Of all the millions of people who watched The Tonight Show, of all the thousands who applied for tickets, of all the hundreds who filled this studio tonight, what were the odds? "Willard," Chappell whispered, her voice barely audible but picked up clearly by her wireless microphone. Sarah nodded, tears already starting to form in her eyes. "I saved up for months to come here. I lied to my parents about why I wanted to visit New York. They think I'm here with my youth group from church." Jimmy looked between Chappell and Sarah, understanding instinctively that this moment was bigger than his show, bigger than entertainment, bigger than anything that had been scripted or planned. "What did you want to ask?" Chappell said softly, already knowing that this conversation would change everything. Sarah took a deep breath, gathering courage that had probably taken months to build. "I'm gay," she said, the words coming out in a rush. "And I don't know how to be that in Willard. I don't know how to be myself when everyone I love thinks who I am is wrong. How did you do it? How did you become brave enough to be yourself when everyone in your hometown thinks you're broken?" The question hung in the air like a bridge between two souls who understood each other's journey in ways that no one else in that studio could fully comprehend. Chappell stood up slowly from her chair. She didn't ask permission from Jimmy or glance at the producers. She didn't worry about breaking character or maintaining the show's format. She simply walked around the desk, past the cameras, and into the audience, drawn by an invisible thread that connected her to this brave young girl who was carrying the same burden she had carried at 17. "Oh, sweetheart," Chappell said as she reached Sarah's row, her voice thick with emotion. "Look at you. Look how brave you are." Sarah started crying then, not the polite tears of someone trying to maintain composure on national television, but the deep, soul-cleansing sobs of someone who had been holding back their truth for too long. "I feel like I'm living a lie," Sarah whispered. "Every Sunday in church, every family dinner, every time my friends talk about boys they like. I have to pretend to be someone I'm not, and it's killing me inside." Chappell reached out and took Sarah's hands in hers, and in that moment, the entire studio disappeared. There was no audience, no cameras, no Jimmy Fallon. There were just two people from the same small town, connected by the same struggle, the same pain, the same desperate need to be seen and accepted for who they truly were. "I know," Chappell said simply. "I know exactly how you feel because I felt it too. That suffocating feeling of being trapped in a life that doesn't fit who you are inside." Behind them, Jimmy had quietly stepped away from his desk, understanding that this wasn't his moment to facilitate. This was something deeper, something sacred that required no host, no entertainment value, no commercial breaks. The cameras kept rolling, but everyone in that studio understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. "Tell me about your family," Chappell said gently. "They're good people," Sarah said through her tears. "My parents, my little brother, my grandparents, they love me, they really do. But they think being gay is a sin, that it's something that can be fixed with enough prayer and faith. They don't mean to hurt me, but every time they talk about my future husband or the kids I'll have someday, it feels like they're erasing who I really am." Chappell nodded, understanding flooding her features. "My family was the same way, still is in many ways. When I first started performing, when I started living openly as a queer woman, it was hard for them to understand. Some of them still struggle with it." "But how do you stand it?" Sarah asked desperately. "How do you live with disappointing people you love?" "By remembering that living authentically isn't about disappointing others," Chappell said, her voice growing stronger. "It's about honoring the person you were created to be. And sometimes, showing people who you really are gives them the chance to love you for real, instead of loving an idea of who they think you should be." She paused, looking directly into Sarah's eyes. "Sarah, can I tell you something that might sound crazy?" Sarah nodded. "You coming here tonight, standing up in this audience, asking this question, that's the bravest thing anyone has done in this studio all week. You traveled hundreds of miles, lied to your parents, spent your savings, all to ask for help in becoming who you really are. That's not the behavior of someone who's broken. That's the behavior of a hero." The audience was completely still, many openly crying. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was ministry, healing, the kind of human connection that reminded everyone why stories matter, why representation matters, why visibility can literally save lives. "I want to sing something for you," Chappell said suddenly. "But first, I need you to know something. You don't have to choose between being yourself and having love. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes patience, but authentic love, the kind that matters, will find you when you're living in your truth." She turned to Jimmy, who was watching with tears in his eyes. "Jimmy, do you think we could get an acoustic guitar up here?" Jimmy nodded to his production team, and within moments a simple acoustic guitar was brought to the stage area where Chappell and Sarah stood. "This is Pink Pony Club," Chappell said, settling the guitar in her hands. "But I want to sing it for you, Sarah, the way I wish someone had sung it for me when I was 17 and scared in Willard, Missouri." She began to play, her voice soft but clear, carrying across the silent studio. But these weren't the original lyrics. These were words created in this moment, for this girl, for this need. "Sarah, you're gonna be okay, even when home feels far away. There's a place for hearts like yours to shine, where being different is divine. You can dance to your own beat. You can love who makes you complete. Small town walls can't hold you down when you're ready for a bigger ground." By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Sarah was sobbing, but they were different tears now. Tears of recognition, of hope, of feeling truly seen for the first time in her young life. "I want to give you something," Chappell said, reaching into her purse and pulling out a small rainbow pin, the same one she'd worn to her first Pride parade. "This isn't just a pin, it's a reminder that you're not alone. Every time you look at it, I want you to remember that there's a community of people out here who see you, who value you, who are cheering for you to become exactly who you're meant to be." She pinned it to Sarah's dress, right over her heart. "And one more thing," Chappell said, her voice carrying new determination. "I want to come to Willard. I want to do a concert there, not as a big famous pop star, but as Kaylee Amstutz, the girl who grew up there and made it out and wants to come back to tell other kids like you that it gets better. It gets so much better." The studio erupted in applause, but through it all, Sarah's voice could be heard. Thank you for showing me it's possible." "Thank you," Chappell replied, "for reminding me why this all matters." As they embraced, Jimmy approached with his own eyes bright with tears. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "sometimes the best interviews happen when we stop asking questions and start listening to the answers we didn't know. We needed to hear." The episode that aired became the most shared Tonight Show segment in history. More than that, it sparked a movement. The hashtag #WillardConcert trended worldwide as fans demanded that Chappell follow through on her promise. 6 months later, Chappell Roan returned to Willard, Missouri for the first time since leaving for Los Angeles. The concert was held at the high school football stadium, and Sarah Mitchell was in the front row, wearing that rainbow pin. And when Chappell sang Pink Pony Club that night, under the Missouri stars, it wasn't just a song anymore. It was an anthem, a promise, a reminder that no matter how small the town, love will always find a way to grow.